Hello, everybody, and welcome to VRIC Media, the most trusted voice in metals and mining. My name is Jesse Day. Welcome in to the show. On this episode, I'm joined by Director at Emperor Metals, a high-grade gold exploration and development junior mining company. It's Alex Horsley. Great to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate having you on. Before we dive in to Emperor Metals and everything that you guys have going on, I want to talk about the gold market and where you see it headed. Obviously, very exciting times. We're knocking on the door of $3,000 gold. I wonder, in your view, what are the catalysts that brought us here, and what stage are we in of this gold bull market?
I think it really started with COVID-19 and the printing of money that went into the system. Central banks started buying gold, which central banks run the world. Clearly, the writing was on the wall. If they're positioning themselves in gold, there's some bigger things coming down the pipeline. So we saw China in particular hoarding gold. At this point, we're seeing even people purchasing gold and silver bullion for themselves, putting in the safe as a store of wealth. There's a lot of uncertainty with what's happening in Gaza and the Ukraine, and now with these tariffs. Personally, I think these tariffs are a really bad idea. I think it's bad for both countries, and it's going to end up resulting in Trump probably printing more money to stimulate the economy and also the stock market. I thought that large cap equities, particularly tech, were overvalued immensely. Then this was going to happen over a year ago. It's now happening. We're seeing a huge pullback in large equities. It's probably going to continue for the foreseeable future and create another great buying opportunity. I think that equals gold going higher. How high it goes, I'm not sure. The World Economic Forum keeps talking about this great reset and moving toward a new world order. I'm not going to put on my tin hat right now, but certainly there's a lot of big reasons to think that gold is still headed a lot higher. I think we're in the second inning of probably a super cycle in commodities and mining.
Well, that brings us to the next question, which is the valuation gap that exists between the metal itself, gold, and the gold mining stocks, because traditionally the mining stocks have kind of been a levered play on the gold price. We haven't seen it play out that way this time. I wonder why you think that valuation gap exists and what it would take to close it.
I mean, we've seen the producers and development companies respond to the rising price of gold. The producers are generally printing money at this point. They're making so much money, so profitable. They're already continuing to do some M&A. What closes the gap for juniors, I guess, is going to be the trickle down effect. Investors rotating from one section of the market to another. Really, I think that's basically it, is people just going down the food chain.
And then, so we've even seen the majors such as Barrick and Newmont underperform. And like you said, these companies are essentially printing cash. So you think perhaps when we see a correction in the broad market, you mentioned that you could see it going down further. In that situation, do you think there could be a rotation of capital in that people are going to want to, some would say, flee to hard assets in the form of physical gold and silver, perhaps? But in terms of the speculative money that's out there, once we see NVIDIA and the Mag 7, et cetera, crash, do you think a lot of that capital could end up in the mining sector?
Well, I think people are going to be looking to protect their wealth, and historically gold has been that safe haven. I think there's going to be a lot of fear, and there's going to be blood in the streets. The herd mentality is quite simple. They see red, they run. We're not that simple. We're not that different than our former selves when we were cavemen. Investors react to green, go, and red, run. So I think gold has told us one thing. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and there's more on the horizon. And what better place to protect themselves than something that has historically done that? So yeah, I think that people will be looking at the mining sector in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, I agree with you there as well. I want to dive into Emperor Metals and learn everything that the company's up to. But first, could you start by maybe giving us a 50,000-foot overview of the company?
Yeah, I mean, the broad strokes of Emperor Metals, it was built to focus on gold because of what is happening now. We are in Quebec in the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which is regarded as one of the best places to mine and find gold. in the world. We're in a unique situation that we're at the heart of it on the Quebec side, where you have those tax incentives. It's very pro-mining. Getting permits is pretty quick. We're in a position where we're surrounded by Agnico Eagle, and they're producing mines and future mines. Rob McEwen, our largest shareholder, and increases position by 750 grand, is on the Ontario side, with McEwen Mining, Pan Americans in the district. Barrick just re-entered the district. Eldorado's there. Recently, O3 got acquired for Marben, which could be supplemental feed to Canadian Malartic. So we've got a high-grade gold deposit called Duquesne West, our flagship, 727,000 ounces of gold, an average of 5.42 grams of gold per ton, which is high grade. Almost more important is 5.7 meter average thickness. Quite recently, we announced, actually yesterday, we acquired 100% of Lac Pelletier from Maritime Resources, which is a near-term production opportunity, 6-year production permits in hand, historical feasibility studies. Our plan is to essentially dewater these existing mining drifts, do some drilling, and update the mineral resource estimate and feasibility studies, and potentially take it in production in the next 3 years if we sign a toll processing agreement or acquire a mill. So you're looking at a dual asset advanced gold junior in the best place to mine and find gold potentially on the planet. A management team that's had 7 companies they've been a part of bought out for a cumulative $12 billion, having raised $1 billion. It checks all boxes. That's basically the broad strokes of the story.
Well, give us some more color on the flagship Duquesne West gold project. Talk to us about the progress you've made so far there and the plans for 2025.
Yeah, so we have an option to acquire 100% of the project back in Q4 of 2022. Since that time, initially we were focused on a underground model, and what happened is we started hitting grades and thicknesses within 400 meters that would suggest there could be a open pit model. So then we ended up in 2023 changing the end of our drilling campaign to focus on that open pit. Lo and behold, we continued to hit. 2024, we came up with a conceptual open pit model and then focused the drilling on that low-hanging fruit, which was to add incremental ounces, reduce the stripping ratio, and potentially de-risk a future open pit model. So it's exactly what we did. What's significant, it's a high-grade system that's seemingly is getting higher grade and thicker at depth. Recently, we hit in the open pit 21.7 meters of 35 grams of gold, which was great. Maybe part of the reason that Rob increased his position in the company. We see huge potential to expand resources, both in the open pit and the underground. We have a mineral resource estimate update coming on Duquesne West, expected late April, which will be incorporating that open pit model at a probably 0.3 or 0.4 gram per ton cutoff grade, while likely lowering the underground model cutoff of 3 grams to 2 grams, because back in 2011, when that historical resource was done, gold was at 960 USD per ounce, and now it's closer to 3,000. So the economics have changed. Pretty unique position to be at the heart of the Abitibi Greenstone Belt with a high-grade deposit with that much thickness and that much growth potential with an open pit model surrounded by underutilized mills, in particular Agnico Eagle. So I think among gold juniors, we're probably positioned better than most of them.
Great summary. Can you walk us through as well the Lac Pelletier project? I think you recently closed the acquisition. There was a news release released yesterday on that. Could you talk to us about that, what that means for the company moving forward and the potential you're seeing there?
Yeah, so Lac Pelletier, 105,000 meters was already drilled before we touched this thing. 70 million spent on the project. So Alexis 15 years ago was actually looking to take this in production and complete a feasibility study, scoping study. They built a portal, mining drifts for 3,300 meters, a ventilation shaft. Then Maritime bought them out. This thing was put on a shelf. We got this for 12.5 million shares, which at the time was $1 million in shares. We're pretty happy with the deal for both companies. They get a significant position, and we get a project we think we can take in production within 3 years. So 227,000 ounces of gold historic. We feel we can increase that quite rapidly. Our artificial intelligence, machine learning, not sure how much I can say about this, but we think there's a whole lot more gold than initially thought. So we're going to do some confirmation drilling, de-water this mining drift that has been full of water for 15 years, get underground, drill it, upgrade the resource, and potentially take it in production within 3 years if we sign a toll processing agreement. So we're pretty excited. For a junior to have a near cash flow opportunity is pretty rare. We look to continue to buy and build in the area and potentially finance our own exploration and potential development of Duquesne West. It's pretty exciting times for Emperor.
Yeah, you mentioned AI there. I want to touch on that in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about the Abitibi Greenstone Belt. It's a prolific mining jurisdiction. You mentioned before you have some very high-profile neighbors in the area. You've got Agnico Eagle there, Pan American, among many others. Talk to us about the history of that region and the advantages of operating there.
I mean, we're quite literally surrounded by infrastructure and producing gold mines. We're close to Wanderenda, Duparquet. You could probably get, your Tim Hortons coffee and your sandwich, and it's still warm by the time you get on the project. You're drilling at 250 Canadian per meter, which is really cheap. The drillers can go home, have dinner with their family. Everybody's happy. So the exploration costs are far cheaper than being, in a remote BC where you're helicoptering everything in. And ultimately, you're thinking about the end game. We're thinking about how can we make ourselves and shareholders money. You do that by either taking something in production or getting bought out by a producer. We're surrounded by producers that are going to need future mill feed for their mills that are right beside us. So operating costs are cheap. It's pro mining. Permitting is very quick. We're in the perfect location.
So let's shine a light on the team behind Emperor Metals and how you plan to leverage their expertise to move your projects forward. Let's start with yourself and your own background, and then if you could provide some color on the rest of the team as well, that would be great.
Yeah, I cut my teeth in investor relations. I was the founder of this company, put the team together, branded the deal, identified the now flagship, brought it to a good friend of mine. We met 12 years ago, John Flork. John Flork, in my opinion, is one of the best geologists in the world. So when I first met him, he was coming off a Developer of the Year award with VRIC at Hemlo, helped build Zone C, had 12 years of mine life to the famous Hemlo mine. Caught up with him 3 years ago, and he was working for Agnico Eagle. So what he did is he added 20% more gold going through the middle of the Detour Lake mine. So back in 2016, it wasn't really profitable. He comes in, builds a team, uses AI, machine learning to create a great control model, then increase the amount of gold going through the mill by 20%. In today's dollars, that's adding $300 million of added revenue per year for life of mine to Detour Lake, which is now the flagship for Agnico Eagle. That guy's experience in production and resource expansion cannot be understated. We're lucky to have this guy as the CEO of this company. John Williamson's been a part of 3 buyouts. He's our chairman of the company. He's an economic geologist. His reputation and experience is crucial to the success of this company. Ian Harris, a mining engineer, took Corriente into production, which was subsequently acquired by a Chinese mining company for $690 million. So we've got a great technical team.
Fantastic. Well, you did hint at AI there. Emperor Metals is leveraging AI-driven exploration techniques. Walk us through that process as much as you're able and how it gives you an edge.
It's like ChatGPT. I'm sure you use it, sing with me. Basically, you're taking just huge data sets and you're asking AI to come up with models that are quite advanced. They look great. They're easy to use, and you're getting them very quickly. Whereas it could take 5 geologists to come up with their models in 3 to 4 years. We're getting them in weeks. Geological Map Tech is the software we use. This is nothing proprietary. Our geologists are very good at using AI machine learning for building models and project valuation, which I think is part of the reason that Rob McEwen was interested in working with us, because he's a huge proponent of innovation. So we are focused on doing everything we can for shareholders. And if we can save money and time, that's a huge advantage. I think every single junior mining company should be educating themselves in AI machine learning and how it can help them save time and money for their companies.
Absolutely. So is Emperor Metals an early adopter when it comes to using this sort of AI technology? Are a lot of companies using it at present? What does that landscape look like?
I mean, 2 years ago, it was the first company. Emperor was the first company I ever heard of that was using it with John Florek. I think more companies are adopting it. I don't know who they are, but certainly some majors that I talk to are now utilizing it. In fact, some of them are actually asking us how we use it, and we're kind of educating a lot of companies and people, to be honest with you. Um, yeah, I think we're one of the few companies using it.
Well, let's talk about some recent news coming out of the company. Very exciting. You recently announced a bonanza grade gold discovery. Take us through those results, what the plans are moving forward, how you plan to capitalize.
Yeah, at about 260 meters of depth, we hit 21.7 meters of 35.2 grams, including 301 grams of gold over 2.5 meters. This was visible gold. There's free gold now in the system. Potentially, there's more of it. That may have implications on a higher grade open pit than we initially thought. Obviously, it's a big hit, and to hit visible gold is a big deal. We may decide to re-assay a whole bunch of other grades in the past that hit around 10 grams because it may potentially contain more gold than I initially thought.
For those who want to consider investing in Emperor Metals, what's some information, maybe something we haven't covered, some things you maybe want to emphasize that we have talked about when it comes to discussing the value proposition of the company?
I mean, we're at a $15-16 million market cap right now. If you look at our peers, we're pretty undervalued. I think that really is the main thing is the price versus value. Money hasn't even come back into the junior mining companies, really. It's only gotten a pulse in the last year. Historically, companies that have a million ounces in the middle of nowhere can get much higher market caps than we are in historical markets. We're expecting our mineral resource estimate by the end of April on Duquesne West. We plan to do a mineral resource estimate update on Lac Pelletier by Q4 of this year. There's a lot of catalysts for this company forthcoming. I don't think Rob McEwen increased his position today by $750,000 because I make him laugh. I think he's looked at the data. I think he's met with management. He likes the team and the vision. I think more importantly, he's looking at Duquesne West, the average grade, the average thickness, the proximity to underutilized mills, the exploration upside. When you're investing in junior mining, you need to check every single box or you don't invest. You need to get everything right. This is a very high risk business. If you can't tolerate any risks, don't invest into it. If you're looking for big reward and you're essentially gambling in junior mining, Emperor Metals has a proven management team that has a history for growing gold resource deposits. They've been involved in M&A. They've had buyouts. Duquesne West is a high-grade, thick gold project in the best place to mine and find gold on the planet, surrounded by Agnico Eagle. One of our neighbors is our largest shareholder. I think the timing is potentially perfect. If we are in the second inning of another bull cycle in commodities and mining, timing is everything in life, period. And investing in junior mining, it's even more important sometimes. So I think Emperor Metals checks all boxes. It requires your due diligence. Have a very good look.
Great. Well, I'm going to put a link in the description below to the Emperor Metals website so people can check it out there, look at your presentation. I'll put the social media link as well so people can follow along. This has been a fantastic conversation. Alex, it's been great having you on the show and looking forward to watching the company develop.
Thank you so much.